Good morning. Welcome to the Kila Chari Torah Daily Halacha Minute, together with Sefirah to Omer, counting the Omer for Tuesday, April 20th. Today is day 23 of the Omer. Hayom Shlosha ve'esrim yom shehem shloisha shavuos u'shnei yamim la'Omer. We've been talking for the last couple of days about Hilchos Yom Tif. We're coming up in a few weeks on Shavuot. We're actually counting the days. That's what the Sefirah to Omer count is. So we said that you're allowed the parameters, the guidelines of keeping Yom Tif are by and large the same as those of Shabbat, with the distinction of Ochel Nefesh, preparing food to eat on that Yom Tif itself. However, we said gathering wood, splitting wood, and so on for the fire is still should be done before Yom Tif. Is not allowed to be done on Yom Tif itself. So Kitzur Shulchan Aruch continues in that vein, says arranging wood on top of the stones to start a fire is prohibited because you're making a tent. It's like putting up two walls and putting a roof over it. But if you can do it in an out of the ordinary manner, unconventional manner, by holding the wood in your hand and putting stones underneath, that you could do. Similarly, when you place a pot on stones and you light a fire underneath it, you should hold the pot in your hand and put the stones under it, but don't do it the other way. In other words, do it with a shinui, with a change, a departure from the normal procedure. You may not fan a fire with a bellows because you're not allowed to do that. That's a maisa uman. That's something that the blacksmith does. It is customary to permit the use of a domestic bellows if you do it in a strange way, backwards, upside down, with your toes, whatever, holding it upside down. But with the one that a professional uses, you should not do it even with an unconventional manner. I think many of us nowadays have foregone use of the bellows to keep the fire going. You can sort all the legumes you need for that day, but not using a tool for that, a sieve or a strainer. You should not put them in water so that the refuse or the edible part will float, but you can separate them by hand to pick out pick out whatever is easier for you. If it's easier to pick out the part of the beans that you don't want, the skin or whatever it is, you can pick that out. If it's easier to pick out the good part of the bean that you want, you're allowed to do that also. Flour that has already been sifted, but you wish to sift it a second time, should be sifted by a non-Jew. Or you can do it in an unconventional manner by turning the sieve upside down. Do the same when sifting crushed matzahs. Flour that's never been sifted may be sifted only by a non-Jew in an unconventional way. It's forbidden to pick out refuse from flour. For example, if you find pebbles or something in your flour, you can't take that out. And forbidden to separate the large crumbs even from ground matzah. Kneading the dough is permitted on Yom Tif. However, you should not measure the flour, but do it by estimate. If you don't measure exactly or take more or less, you're then in that case allowed to use a measuring utensil. Dough for noodles, for farfel, and the like, used for soups, should be kneaded on Erev Yom Tif. If you let them sit a little bit, they actually taste better. A little cooking tip here from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. But if you did not knead them on Erev Yom Tif, you can knead them on Yom Tif in an out of the ordinary way, unconventional way. For example, if you usually knead your noodle dough on a board, do it on a tablecloth now, or something like that. Cooked food that doesn't spoil, like dried fruits and a similar things, should be cooked Erev Yom Tif. If you knead dough on Yom Tif, you're allowed to take challah from it. Do hafrashas challah, take challah aside, make a bracha. But you cannot burn the challah portion because holy things cannot be burned on Yom Tif. It's also forbidden to bake the challah portion because it's not fit to be eaten. No one's going to eat it. So we're all considered to have a degree of tumah that would prohibit us from eating the portion of challah that's given to the kohanim, the priest. So you have to leave it aside. So you're not allowed to handle it. So put it in a safe place until after Yom Tif, where nobody's going to come across it, and then burn it then. If you knead dough on Erev Yom Tif, it's forbidden to take challah on Yom Tif. But you can bake the bread and eat it and leave a little bit over to take challah after Yom Tif. The portion you leave should be sufficient for separating challah and then some, in other words, to have a little bit left over. Okay, we'll continue with reviewing the laws of Yom Tif tomorrow. Please join us then. Have a nice day.